Women have a distinct advantage when it comes to self-protection, but will they use it? Today, I got two clips that really talk about globally what I find is the most important thing to understand when it comes to women's self-defense. There are some variables in it that are very different than what men have to deal with. And so I picked two clips that I saw that really hit it. And the first one is from Louis C.K. He just talks about the whole concept of dating and what women have to overcome to date. And he does it in a very funny way, but in a very truthful way. And so the reason we got to set up the mindset first before we can talk about what the advantage is, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and listen to what Louis has to say.
Works and you say, you want to go out sometime? Sometimes she'll say yes. And if she says yes, that's her courage. And the courage it takes for a woman to say yes is beyond anything I can imagine. A woman saying yes to a date with a man is literally insane and ill-advised. And the whole species' existence counts on them doing it. And I don't know how do women still go out with guys when you consider the fact that there is no greater threat to women than men. We're the number one threat to women. Globally and historically, we're the number one cause of injury and mayhem to women. We're the worst thing that ever happens to them. That's true. You know what our number one threat is? Heart disease. That's the whole thing. That's it. Just our own heart going, dude, you can't keep doing this. I told you 3 strokes ago that this is not smart. But women still think, yeah, I'll go out with you alone.
Okay, so this part is just really is classic, but you can see what he's talking about. I mean, it's funny, but it's true. It's very true. And he finishes up with this, which I think is great.
Alone at night? What are you, nuts? I'll get in your car with you with my little shoulders. Hi, where are we going? To your death, statistically.
Listen, he said it very funny way, but it's very true. You have to sit there and talk about that. Statistically, he's absolutely right. The number one threat to females from a violent standpoint is men. We are the number one threat. Now, listen, I know there's been a lot of male toxicity, all that other stuff. I know the Me Too movement, there have been abuses of that. Nobody's been more of an advocate. You just go after the false Me Too accusations than me. Reason being is it takes it away from the real victims. Unfortunately, false claims against men. And understand, like a lot of guys will probably see this and they'll probably think, oh yeah, making us all look bad. No, statistically, it is very true what women have to think about. Now, Jocko did a clip, and it was just right on point. Now, he talks a little bit about other aspects of what women have to deal with in this clip, but the point that he talks about violence is very, very cogent. It is exactly what I wrote about in, I think it was 2012 when my Survive the Unthinkable came out, my female book that came out in women's self-protection. And that was my whole theme on this, was the whole idea of what women have to think about when it comes to violence, okay? So let's hear what Jocko has to say.
Yeah. When's the last time you were personally afraid for your own safety?
2019, yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. For females, they'll go, oh yeah, 2 days ago I was at the supermarket and I walked outside and there was my car, the street light had gone off. Like, that's very common for them to go through that.
So listen, where he's talking about the violence, the idea, potentiality for violence. I talk about that all the time. Anytime an unfamiliar male just walks into an area where women are, one of the first things they do is just they assess the situation right away. So I said that women have an unfair advantage. And what is that unfair advantage? Well, it is the very fact that they are far more aware of the potentiality for violence than men are. And they are very intuitive and because of, survival that they have to do that. Now, the goal is, as you are a self-protection specialist, is you need to use that as a superpower for them. You need to really get them to trust it. And when that has happened in training, I've had amazing results with women. They've taken something that before they were fearful about feeling the potentiality for violence to seeing it as a power that they can have. And what I mean by power is just the ability to assess something and get out of there before it becomes a problem. That is, women are far more aware of that than men are. And it's one of those points that kind of gets lost in the mix, especially since, like I said, we've had the abuse in the last couple of years and the male toxicity situation where if a guy makes anything jackass statement or something like that, they equate that with rape. That's the problem, is we're talking about real physical violence. You've seen a lot of the clips that I put on about attacks against women, how quickly it happens and how they are they are absolutely stalked by these predators. So again, I wanted to give a balance. I wanted, to use a non-intimidating way of bringing up a very intimidating subject. And that's why I used a clip from Louis C.K. And then I thought Jocko did a really good job on that. Again, it's a theme. I've always really enjoyed training women. Women are absolutely fantastic when it comes to self-protection. The deal is, don't train a woman like she's bigger, faster, stronger. Showing her stuff that requires her to be bigger, faster, stronger is just a false context. That's why injury to the human body is so important, should they have to use physical defense. But if they really understand human nature, and this is really where I'm getting to, they can make sure that they live a life that really, really can prevent the potentiality for violence if they use that awareness to their advantage. And so that's a challenge for any of you guys that are out there as self-defense instructors, martial arts, anybody that's advocating women's self-protection. You need to turn this, and you need to make it very aware that, hey, this is actually a good thing that you're thinking about this, that you see this potentiality, and how can you use it to your advantage. And then the other thing that's interesting is women, when violence happens to them, it's a real thing. Men, sometimes we communicate with violence. We will knock each other around. It'll be more ego-based. It'll be more kind of alphaing each other, who's the alpha in the room and stuff like that, not really intent to do harm. So we play with violence. Women don't play with violence. When women experience violence, it is the real thing. So again, this is an uncomfortable concept to talk about, but I think it's absolutely important. And I think both of these clips did a really good job of really setting the table to what the issue is. And now I hope I've given you the idea of how we can flip that and actually turn it into a positive rather than a negative. So again, if you're ready to start putting together a plan for you and your family, please go get our guide. Go to surviveviolence.com. 11 different modules that'll start putting a program together for you and your family that will minimize the chance of violence coming in your life. Until next time, guys, stay safe.